right, y'all, let's talk about embedding items into melt and pour soap. Now, if you have not watched my first video I made explaining all about melt and pour soap and you're just coming here and you've never messed with melt and pour before, please, 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 I'm asking you to go watch that video because I'm going to give you a lot of information in that video. But what I have here, I have 2 blocks of melt and pour. This is a shea butter based soap, and as you can see, it is opaque and white. This one is clear. Now, yes, I purchased these at a craft store. Listen, I'm going to say this in a lot of videos. In the end, if you're going to start making this stuff to sell, you don't want to buy your supplies retail at a craft store, okay? Get online, look up wholesale stuff. You can even get on Etsy, and there are sellers on there that sell like bulk soap bases twice as much as this for a quarter of what I paid for this in a craft store. But if you're just starting out and, you know, you're just playing with it to try to see if it's something that you want to do, by all means, just go to the craft store and buy your supplies, okay? Don't buy a whole bunch of stuff and go into a lot of debt trying out a new hobby, okay? But I have my little funnel cups here, which makes soap pouring a heck of a lot easier. And that's what we're going to be using instead of a measuring cup. I really don't measure a lot of stuff. But for this is technically rebatching. The soap is made. You can pick this up right now and use it. But what we're going to be doing is melting it down and pouring it into molds. And that is how we're going to start off with making our first embed. So what technically is an embed? It is something that you embed in your soap. And the first kind I want to show you is one that we are going to make. So I have this here. Look at this little mold. This mold I got a while ago from Hobby Lobby. It was on clearance over with their Valentine's Day stuff on sale. It's 40% off. Well, not on clearance. It was on sale. 40% off. I thought, see, they're not very tall. They're kind of small, and I think these would be really cute in some soap. So we're going to use this. The next thing we need to talk about is the coloring. Now, coloring is very important when you're either layering soap or when you're going to be making embeds. You can't use just any soap coloring. Hold on, I'm going to move my heater. You can't use just any soap coloring because it's going to bleed, okay? Eventually, and it doesn't take long with some brands. I mean, some brands you can let that soap sit there for 2 days and the color is going to leach out into the soap around it. It's going to look terrible. It's not going to look nice. No way you could sell that. So let's take a look at some soap colorings here. This is your plain old liquid soap coloring, okay? These will bleed. You can look on the back. Sometimes it will say non-bleed. Now they do have non-bleeding colors. They can be harder to find. And in my experience, like I said, I've been doing this for many, many years now. In my experience, a lot of times they are not a true no bleed color. You will use it, you'll have a beautiful design, and then you'll look and yep, you see that little cloud of color is starting to leach out into the soap. A good way to guarantee that that's not going to happen is to use mica. These are mica pigments. This is what you can use in lip balm. I used to sell the crap out of tinted lip balm, but this is what you would use in tinted lip balm. It is skin safe. You can also use it in soap, pretty much anything that you'd put on your skin, okay? Like this is solid lotions. I've never tinted a solid lotion, but I did tint the lip balms. This is a mica-based colorant. It is not going to bleed. So we're going to be using this type of colorant in our little heart mold. You can get these tiny little mini scoops, a wonderful way to measure out your mica. Let's say that we're going to make this, right? And you come up with a color scheme that you really like. You say, oh, well, this pink looks beautiful. You can write down how many of these little scoops you used for your mica because you don't need a lot at all. So you don't want to start measuring like in teaspoons and tablespoons unless you're making a whole lot at one time, you know. These little scoops are just fine. And once again, that came from Hobby Lobby, $1.79. But we're going to be using this and this. So any type of coloring that you use is going to give you a different effect in each one of these soaps, okay? The clear soap is going to be much brighter. And of course, because this is white and opaque, this is going to be a more dulled down color. So let's say you had a bright red color. You put it in, excuse me, you put it in here, it's going to look red. You put it in here, it's going to look pink, okay? And I will go into some more tips and tricks on how to get vibrant colors with this using white, make it even more vibrant. We'll get into that later. That's another video. But for now, let's keep them separate, okay? So first off, for these embeds, I'm going to use the clear soap. Let's move this out of the way. And I'm just going to cut off a little bit of this clear soap. I just cleaned these, but let's make double sure that these are nice and clean. And I'm just going to use my handy dandy knife here just to cut a few pieces. Now you want to cut these small because you can burn melt and pour soap. Once you burn it, oh my goodness, that smell, it is terrible. So if you cut it into small pieces, it helps it to melt faster. And you risk, you know, your risk is not as high to burn it. So let's just cut a few pieces and put in here. So we're not really going to be making a lot because my mold here, I believe, holds 4 bars of soap. So we're not going to be making a whole lot of these. So I think this is going to be enough. Now I'm going to go put this in the microwave for just a few seconds, stir it, microwave it a few seconds, stir it, and then I'll come back when it's fully melted and we'll start to mix in our coloring. So this is melted and this stuff will harden up fairly quickly. And it's cold in here, so that's going to speed it along. So try to work quickly. If it hardens up, then go stick it back in the microwave, okay? You see, this is our mica. I'm just going to take 1 scoop and put it in. Now I'm just going to use this butter knife to stir it around and then take a look and see if it's the color you like. Just keep stirring, 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 stirring. You can use this butter knife to like scrape the sides. And you see, that's already a nice color. Just keep on stirring to make sure that it doesn't clump up on you, because it will. And that 1 little scoop should be enough. Like I said, this stuff is very concentrated. You don't need a lot. Okay. You can take a little bit and drop it on your paper here and see what it's going to look like. I think that's going to be enough. Now just take it and we're going to pour it into our mold like so and just fill it up. Okay. I just poured it all on there and I'm just taking the back of my knife and I'm just scraping over. Once again, a spray bottle of rubbing alcohol. You see how I'm just barely spraying the back of them? What's that going to do? It's going to pop all of the little bubbles that come up on the back. Now these are going to be embeds. The back of them are going to be covered, so that part doesn't really matter, but I just like to do it just to make sure all the bubbles are gone. Okay, so now we're going to let these sit here and harden up completely. Okay, so I believe these have set up. Yeah, I bumped it a while ago and made the back a little ripply, but it's okay because you're not going to see this part. And the mold does not feel warm. It's pretty cold in here. It's very cold in here. This is the coldest room in my house, man. So it usually doesn't take soap very long to set up. But I just like to pull the mold. That's why I love these silicone molds. Okay, it just makes it easier for them to come out. Okay, then just take them out of the mold. So now you're going to take these with the pretty side down and put them in your mold. Pretty side down, I mean, you know, like this is like the rough back, you know, the back of it that was showing on the back of your mold. So now you're just going to place these however you want them. So now I have these placed in here about how I want them. Now we need some more clear soap. Okay, so let's get our little cup doohickey here and let me make sure I don't get any colorant in this. Now when we pour this into our mold, this is going to surround our embeds. And you want to pour it just up above the back of them, okay? Just up above the back. We're not filling up the whole entire mold here. And of course, I'll show you that when the time comes to pour it. Now, when you're pouring soap around your embed, you don't want it to be very hot, okay? You don't want it to be very hot at all. Why? Because then that's going to melt them and they're going to lose their shape. And they're going to bleed out into the rest of your soap and make a mess. So I'm going to cut some more of this and go melt it. All right, so this is melted. Now listen, I'm not going to be adding any fragrance to the clear soap. Not just yet. We're going to add that to the white soap. Why? Not all brands, okay? Not all brands do this. I just happen to have noticed that with this brand, sometimes it makes your clear soap a little cloudy, and we don't want that. We want it to be as clear as possible. Now, if your clear soap base, like this looks just a tiny bit cloudy, but if you really look at it, that's bubbles. That's air bubbles, okay? So we're just going to make sure that this has cooled down quite a bit before we pour it. Because like I said, it can make that soap melt, and then you're going to have a mess, and you're going to waste all your precious embeds. So let's just let that sit there and cool just for a few seconds. Now, when you're putting the soap around the embeds, spray them with a little bit of the rubbing alcohol. Okay. Spray, spray, spray. Spray, spray, spray. That is going to help this soap to bond to this soap. Sometimes when you put in the embeds and you pour your soap, it'll start to pull away and it looks like it has cracks in it. That doesn't look very nice. And it can prevent air bubbles. A lot of times when you pour soap into something like this and there's like things in there, it can cause air bubbles. So now we're just going to be so careful when pouring this in because you don't want to disturb all your little embeds. And if they move, it's okay. Just move them back into place. You'll be all right. So we're just going to pour this soap around. And then we're going to wait a moment for any air bubbles to come up to the top. There we go. Now, when the bubbles come up to the top, you just spray it with alcohol again. Let this sit here for a few minutes. Let any more bubbles come up to the top, and I'll spray them. Now we need this to set up completely. All right, so I've gone ahead and melted some of this white soap. No, I wasn't going to make you watch me cut it up. You've seen me cut soap before. It is very cold in here, like I said earlier. So if you see the steam, the soap is not that hot. It's just very cold in here. But now, this is the white soap, so now we're going to add the coloring like I said before. Sometimes this coloring can make the soap just a little bit cloudy, so that's why I waited to add it to the white backing. So I'm just going to put in a few drops here. Now, this scent in particular, it's not very strong. It's not overwhelming. I'm still just going to put just a little, though. Now, with floral scents, I haven't really had a problem in white soap base, but when you get into more like the bakery type scents, like cookies, cake, pies, things that contain vanilla, it can turn your soap brown. And there's a stabilizer that you can get to put in your soap to prevent that from happening. We'll get into that at a later date, but just be mindful of that. If you're using scents, like I said, that may have a bit of vanilla in it, take a little bit of your white soap, put it in a container and melt it, and then put your fragrance in that. Just test it. Just see, okay? So don't, waste a whole lot of your product. So let's see, this needs to cool just a little bit, but when you're layering soap, once again, spray it with alcohol. Don't worry about putting too much because it's going to float up to the top and it's going to evaporate. It's on me. All right, so let's see. This still feels pretty warm, so I'm going to let it sit here just for a few more minutes and let it cool down a little bit. Okay, I believe this is ready now. So now we're going to be very careful because I don't think that this is 100% set up. And when you're layering soap, you don't want to pour it with force, because then it can break through that top layer of soap and sink down into the rest of it, and then it'll destroy it, okay? So we're just going to be very careful, praying that that doesn't happen. And then just pour all of our white soap in there. Spray it with more rubbing alcohol just to get rid of any bubbles on the back. And let it set up. All right, so this should be set up by now. Like I said, when I take it out of the mold, I just kind of pull the mold away from the sides. Kind of loosens it up a little bit. And then we're just going to pop it out like so. And there it is. I know this light and this background. I'm moving things around in my craft room and it's so hard to see things now. But I'm trying to do this so that the light is not glaring off of the soap. But how cute is that? So cute and so easy. But that is how you make embeds with soap. So now I'm just going to set this over to the side because it feels to me like it's not 100% set up yet. I'm just going to set it off to the side, let it finish setting up, and that will be that. But see, there it is from the side. Cute, cute, cute. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would, please give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe. Check me out on other forms of social media. the links to all of which will be in the description box down below. And I hope to see y'all next time. Bye!